Hey, hi you guys. Welcome to the channel. And if you're new to the channel, my name's Rod Savala. I'm a street evangelist. I go to college campuses. I do door-to-door evangelism. I do one-on-one. And I am hoping and praying that these videos, excuse me, they allow the body of Christ to get a feel for the work of an evangelist. And I really hope that we in the body are working at getting better, excuse me, at proclaiming Christ, at making known the wonders of what God has done for us. And we started in Genesis. Right now we're in just getting started in Exodus, and we're in chapter 1 still. And I'd like to remind those of you who remember one of the sitcoms that I grew up with, and it was something we watched. I think we watched it every day. It was Gomer Pyle. And he's in the service, and I can't even remember if that was the title of the sitcom, but one of the characters in that sitcom was called Sarge. And what I remember distinctly about it is Sarge would belt out, "I can't hear you." And that's what's really going on in the world today. In our evangelism, we want to ask ourselves, is the world hearing us? Not just because we're loud. My evangelism in the streets, it's pretty loud. When I go to college campuses, I make an effort to speak out loud so that people can hear and they can they understand. I'm making an attempt to articulate my words loudly without using a bullhorn so that they would understand what the gospel is. About 5 years ago, I remember being in the street and a couple walked up to me and they were trying to persuade me that this was not the way to do evangelism, that I should go to the hospitals and I should talk to people one-on-one. That is a good way. Matter of fact, I have a good friend, Doug Opie, who's going to be joining me. He has a hospital ministry, and I'm going to be interviewing Doug. But that's not my ministry, and it may not be yours. The streets may not be yours. The real question is, are we being heard? You know, that couple, one of the things they said, and I think they were trying to help. I think they were, a good brother and sister that was trying to help. But one of the things they said is, you know what? Nobody out here can hear you. So I waited until they crossed the street. They got across the intersection, and I shouted out loud, "God is trying to get your attention. And God has already demonstrated at the cross how much He loves you and how much He wants you back." You know what they did? They were quite a distance away. They stopped and turned around. They heard me. And I did do that on purpose, trying to let them know that my voice is loud enough that they're going to get heard. The message is going to get heard. Also, at that very same intersection, I would say within 2 years, I was there preaching again, and I had been there before 2 years were up, but at about 2 years after that particular event, a young lady pulled up into the parking lot, and she came over and she said, "You know what? I'm doing a report on people's opinions about certain subjects." And she was a student at Fresno State, and she saw me out there, and she said, immediately, I thought, I want to ask this guy, what's he saying? What's his message? So people see us, and if we are being clear in what the gospel is, that it is good news, it is good news. But don't let the world try to make you, or even believers who they're seeing through their glasses, and that's not the way they would do it. That's okay. They should do evangelism the way that they feel comfortable doing it. And sometimes you don't feel comfortable doing it. But make it an effort to make evangelism part of your walk. Somewhere in your walk as a believer, my walk, we ought to be proclaiming Christ. Check out Exodus chapter 1, verse 10. It says here, this is the Egyptians. The Hebrews are in Egypt, and here's what the Egyptians are saying. Look, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Wow, what a testimony that would be. Wouldn't that be wonderful if our neighborhoods, if the news was saying these Christians are mightier than we? That's what the Egyptians were saying. Let us deal, then they say, let us deal shrewdly with them. In the event of war, that they also join our enemies and fight against us. In the event of war is what the Egyptians were saying. Do you know we are in a war? We're in a war for the battle of men's souls. And we ought to be fighting in that war. Since I've started this channel and I've watched other YouTube channels, I've listened to podcasts. You know what? In those channels, on those channels and on those podcasts, they have an area for comments. Oh, I hope and pray that you're making comments. Say something to those people who are standing their ground for the truth. Whether it's in politics, whether it's at a school board, or whether it's somebody preaching in the streets, or having a cup of coffee and saying, can I ask you a personal question? What do you think about Jesus? Tell me what you think about the man Jesus. God bless you, and pretty soon we're going back to the streets, okay?